The U.S. is bracing for travel chaos starting on Friday as transport authorities are set to reduce air traffic. Flights at 40 airports are due to be cut as the Federal Aviation Administration prepares to reduce capacity by up to 10%. They say it's needed to maintain safety as air traffic controllers affected by the government shutdown are feeling the strain. Around 1.4 million federal employees are working without pay or on forced leave because Congress has been unable to agree a funding package.
There's nothing new about lining up at airports. But for now in the U.S., this has become the new normal. Each passing day of the U.S. government shutdown, there's more pressure on airports and airlines as tens of thousands of federal employees go without pay. Air traffic controllers have been reporting fatigue, prompting the Federal Aviation Administration to take action.
We do recognize that the controllers have been working fastidiously for the last 5 weeks with this huge burden over their head of lack of compensation. And we are starting to see some evidence that that fatigue is building in the system in ways that we feel we need to work towards relieving some of that pressure.
The aviation agency said that to keep the airspace as safe as possible, it has decided to reduce traffic at major airports across the country, gradually, aiming to reach a 10% cut by next week if the shutdown continues. Airlines say more than 3 million travelers have already been impacted by air traffic control shortages since the shutdown began. The latest measure could see more than 250,000 airline seats slashed per day.
I'm more concerned, honestly, about the workers, the TSA and ATC controller, or the controllers who haven't been paid in over a month at this point. So even though I'm worried about myself, I obviously, if I had to, I could get a rental car to go home, but I'm more concerned about all of these staff. I feel really bad for them.
I think it's the fact that our government can't work together and come to some kind of closure, and people can't be adults in this country right now, which is sad.
Democrats argue only one man can end the country's longest ever shutdown.
The only way to move forward with a bipartisan negotiation is for the president to get off the sidelines and get in the game so we can reopen the government.
Until a deal is landed, air travel is the latest sector to be caught in the crosswinds.
Let's bring in Michael Baiada. He's a former military and commercial pilot and current president of the ATH Group. That's a consultancy serving the air transport industry. Welcome to DW. The U.S. is now 5 weeks into the government shutdown. How challenging has this been for air traffic?
Well, although I'm retired, I understand having 40 years of expertise in airline operations and additional air traffic control issues. It is very challenging. The controllers certainly aren't being paid, which is a big concern, both as a former pilot and somebody who deals in air traffic control day to day.
How would you assess, though, the safety amid all of this? Because there's already a shortage of air traffic controllers in the United States, and now they're working without pay. How difficult is this situation for them? Is it dangerous even for people who would be traveling?
I wouldn't call it dangerous. I think that we have gotten into this mess. We started long before the government shutdown. What we've seen in terms of controller shortages, et cetera, and how we run the system. One of the things I have is what makes 10% the magic number. One of the things that both airlines and ATC systems around the world is we don't really have a good handle on what is capacity, how much is safe, how much is not. So what I think happens is we err on the conservative side and cut back the traffic, even though we're not really 100% sure which way to go, whether it's 8%, 9%. Why did we settle on 10% versus, say, like I said, 10 to 12%?
And an end to the shutdown doesn't seem to be in sight. We're rapidly approaching the holiday season in the United States with Thanksgiving just a few weeks off. How chaotic do you think things could become at U.S. airports now?
I think if this continues on, it's going to become very, very chaotic. And the people that pay the price are the passengers. And things will slow down even more than they are today. We cut 10%. That's in the middle of the week next week. That's not as big a deal as when you get into the Thanksgiving rush here in the United States.
What would you be advising travelers right now? Ones who have either bought a ticket already or who might be thinking of buying a ticket and traveling within the United States?
I think the system's safe. Because you have both professional pilots and professional controllers still in the system, working hard to make sure it's safe. The bottom line is, I think, especially if this continues, staying home is the best plan going forward. Unfortunately, that's just not something a lot of people can do. My daughter flew today. My in-laws are flying back from visiting to the East Coast from the West Coast on Saturday. And there's not a lot of other options, because as the airlines pull back and cut flights, anybody that's going to fly and can't get on a flight, there's going to be less flights going forward. And we see the same result if there's a bad weather storm, say on the East Coast or the West Coast, and flights are delayed and canceled. And the bottom line is people are very upset and very tired, and it's just not a pleasant thing to work through.
When there is a shortage of air traffic controllers and they're working under these conditions which might be a bit more stressful, having not been paid, can you just walk us through the practicalities of what might be going on right now, both among the air traffic controllers and among the pilots actually flying the planes? We've heard some planes, for example, have had to be rerouted. How exactly does this work?
Well, rerouting and other things are things pilots and air traffic controllers are used to in daily operations. As I said, this is no different than a big storm, say a winter snowstorm, where flights get canceled and everything gets rerouted. The system remains safe. It's just long delays where you may get your flight get canceled, but you may not be able to get on a flight for, say, 3 days, as an example. I've seen that more than once in my 40-year career flying airplanes.
Aviation expert Michael Baiada, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad I could help.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by Philip Mann. He teaches at the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Philip, good to see you. We're 5 weeks into this government shutdown. Why are airlines being forced to reduce their flight schedules only now?
Yeah, well, this is really kind of predictive responsing. Like Secretary Duffy said, the goal of the FAA is to run a safe and efficient national airspace system. Safe is always number one, and the efficiency, flyers will see that in the terms of convenience, and the agency itself will reduce the load on the controllers and on the infrastructure to maintain the appropriate safety margins. And this is just a way to do that preemptively, and a way to actually reduce the impacts of the outages that they're expecting, with people calling out because of fatigue and things like that. It's just planning ahead.
We're rapidly approaching the holiday season. With that said, in the US, how dangerous is it that many air traffic controllers are being forced to work without pay? What makes it dangerous?
Well, it's not really. I mean, with these controls in the bandwidth, with these reductions in flights, it's not dangerous. And the national airspace system is really, really safe. What makes it challenging as far as maintaining the throughput is that the fatigue builds up. The air traffic control is one of the few jobs that a lot of people probably aren't familiar with, that you have to be willing and able to pay attention all the time. The entire time you're at work, you have to be awake, you have to be up, you have to be on your game. And if folks are fatigued because they're working 60-hour weeks, or because they're worrying about their mortgage because they haven't had a paycheck, that fatigue builds up, and it's up to controllers to call out and to call out sick and say, look, I can't do my job, I am too tired, and for them to stay home. It's one of the jobs you can't even take basically over-the-counter cold medications because it affects your attention, and being really fatigued from the work and all the worry that's because of not getting a paycheck, it kind of adds up there.
Understood. This wouldn't be the first time we've seen a government shutdown during holidays. What is it that makes it different this time as we approach a holiday season?
Yeah, well, if we're...
All right. Looks like we are having trouble with Philip. Philip, can you hear me again? I was just asking what makes it difficult this time about a holiday season approaching this time.
Yeah, it's because the prior shutdown in 2018, 2019 happened right before Christmas. That's when it started. So the effects and the fatigue and stuff hadn't built up over the holiday season. This time, the shutdown happened at the beginning of October and is now 5 weeks in. It will now be 7 weeks in by the time Thanksgiving gets here. If it's not resolved by Christmas, it'll be 2.5 months. So right now we're seeing a lot of compounded fatigue and compounded wear on the system. And also, for the folks that are on forced leave, the folks that are stuck home, we're seeing a lot of that kind of back end work that they would do that's just not being done right now, like filing reports and stuff like that. So it just right now we have more of a buildup of kind of backlog than what we'd seen in previous shutdowns.
Aviation expert Dr. Philip Mann, thanks so much for sticking with it. Appreciate it. Well, Henry Harteveldt is a founder and president of Atmosphere Research Group, which is an advisory firm that serves the global travel industry. Good to be speaking with you, Henry. There is already a shortage of air traffic controllers in the US. They have warned of a tipping point because of the shutdown. How bad is the situation?
The situation is pretty bad. Even before the shutdown began, we were 2,000 air traffic controllers short in the US. Now that's better than at the beginning of the year when we were 3,000 controllers short. But during the shutdown, understandably, some air traffic controllers are saying they can't afford to work without burning some money, so they are taking time off or calling in sick to take other jobs, or they're simply fatigued and stressed out and they're not showing up for work. And we also are seeing signs with the TSA, the airport screening officers, they too are short-staffed.
Henry, just how chaotic do you think things will get at US airports in the coming days?
Well, I think it will be less bad initially than we were led to believe when the Department of Transportation conducted its press conference on Wednesday. For now, it appears most airlines will be reducing their flights between 4% and 5% during the weekend. For example, at a large airline like Delta in the US, that means roughly 170 to 175 flights that will be cut. And that means 96% of the flights will operate. But starting Monday, I expect we will start to see the cancellations increase unless, of course, we have a resolution. Importantly, long-haul international flights, as well as international flights between the US and Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean are exempt from these cuts. So that means the cuts will be focused on the US domestic network exclusively.
Henry, this is an area you know well, and you've no doubt travelled on holidays before. But for someone who hasn't experienced travelling in the US during the holiday period, could you paint the picture for us what that is like without these problems in the system?
Well, we're coming up on the US Thanksgiving holiday, which is towards the end of November. That is the busiest travel week for the US air transportation system. Flights go out full or close to full. There are longer than usual lines to clear airport security, longer lines to check your bags at the counters, longer waits for baggage in baggage reclaim areas. Right now, however, we're in an off-peak situation. So if there's a good side, an upside to this immediate disruption, it's that it's happening at an off-peak time. So fewer people will be affected now than 3 weeks from now with these flight cancellations. And I sure hope our government has reopened by Thanksgiving.
With all of that in mind, before we let you go, what would your advice be to air travellers? Would you advise people to postpone flights if possible?
If you don't have to travel, during the next week or so, I would encourage you to consider postponing your trip, or if you need to, canceling your trip. It's going to be uncertain. It's going to be a very fluid situation, and it's not going to be all that pleasant. It's going to be much less pleasant than usual. If you are traveling, importantly, get the mobile app from the airline you're flying. And so, for example, if you've booked a code share, for example, Lufthansa on United Airlines, get the United Airlines app so that you are getting information directly from the operating carrier, because they will have the information before the code share partner.
Sound advice for what could be some trying days ahead. Henry Harteveldt, founder and president of the Atmosphere Research Group. It's been great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.